our clients are saying, hey, we got a lead from ChatGPT. It's always ChatGPT. It's never Grok. It's never, Google Gemini. And the reason that they know that is because people are telling them, oh, I found you on ChatGPT. You're going to get a constant stream of leads. And so that's kind of where I see ChatGPT being different and why I see we should take it very seriously. Hey, everybody, and welcome to another awesome episode of Crowdfunding Nerds. I am your host, Andrew Lowen, and I am joined, as almost always, by Sean. We are discussing ChatGPT Ads today, and just because I feel like it's a massive, it has massive potential to be the next big ad platform that actually works for, in a number of ways. But even still, I think it's not gonna replace Meta for the main source of ads that actually work. Meta and Google are still going to maintain their usefulness, and TikTok will continue to be useless. And I think ChatGPT is going to come up and surprise a lot of people. So that's really what the podcast is about. So what's up, Sean? How do you feel?
And I'm here to throw a stick in the mud and push back a little bit.
Yeah. Well, you had this interesting kind of counterculture idea of which I actually think is ideal, what the world should be like versus what the world will be like, and it might be a fun thing to talk about as well. So,
yeah.
But first of all, I guess we could just get into the main meat of the announcement is that ChatGPT is starting to test ads on their platform. ChatGPT has over 1 billion active users, many of which use it for free, and some of whom, including myself and others, that actually have a paid subscription for things that to get more brain processing power and other things like that. But because ChatGPT is talking about ads, there's a massive potential here. I'm already finding that our SEO marketing clients, so we, about half of our business, for those that don't know, is SEO marketing for service-based businesses, and some of our product-based clients will also take advantage of SEO marketing. But in general, that means getting to the top of Google for important keywords that indicate somebody, wanting to purchase your product or service. If you can just place yourself there, then that search was initiated by the user. That strategy is called polling that person to you. So you're catching somebody that's interested in a search, and they're going to talk to you because you were the best match for their inquiry. That is a very powerful. In fact, it's the so behind a personal referral from a family or friend, and then word of mouth from another customer, getting a lead on Google is I want to say it's like 50% likely that you'll close somebody that was referred to you by a family, friend, or client, and it is about 18% chance that you will close a referral that where somebody called you from Google. And that, and then like television advertising is horrible. But even if somebody contacts you from, another form of advertising, it's like a 1% likelihood for conversion in most cases, or less. And that is, from the initial outreach. And ChatGPT, there are 1 billion or more active users that are asking questions all the time. And what I'm finding is actually in the last half of 2025, and even now, it's just getting stronger and stronger. Our clients are saying, hey, we got a lead from ChatGPT. We got a lead from ChatGPT. It's always ChatGPT. It's never Grok. It's never, Google Gemini. It's always, we got a lead from ChatGPT. And the reason that they know that is because people are telling them, oh, I found you on ChatGPT. I've received leads in the exact same way. I get phone calls sometimes from people that find our company's number on ChatGPT, which it exists out there. If so that's something that I find I don't know if I want that information on a podcast, but but I think that's fine.
cut.
Cut. So I just find it fantastic that it's an actual source of leads right now, and I find that if you're going to actually um, if you're gonna invest into something that is already working for you, it just makes much more logical sense. So, for example, back in the day, Facebook used to be an amazing source of organic traffic, and um, Google is an incredible source of organic traffic. And now that ChatGPT is becoming a source of organic traffic, it makes logical sense to me as a business owner that you should be able to that paying to gain that traffic and monetize that traffic could be worthwhile. And what I'm talking about in particular, because TikTok and Instagram and all these sites are great sources of organic traffic, what I'm talking about is traffic that actually turns into leads. So for the purpose of lead generation, Facebook, Google, and now ChatGPT are by far the dominant forces. The rest, it seems like you're catching people based on their interests, and they're watching, for TikTok, they're watching videos. Maybe they will take action if a lot of people are following you, or if you have a really great video that shows a product is fun or something like that. But one video to the next is like, feast or famine. And Google, if you're ranked, number one on Google for whatever it is, family law attorney, New York City, you're going to get a constant stream of leads, right? And so that's kind of where I see ChatGPT being different, and why I see we should take it very seriously from the term, or from the position of like an advertiser.
I'd love to see the film 2001 with HAL, the AI system that turns against the characters in that film, but with ads inserted. HAL, open the door, and like this ad pops up.
Would you like a door? What is it, like the Front Door Company in San Antonio, Texas?
Yeah, there's an interesting book which I haven't read, but I've sort of understand the kind of general premise of the book, and it's written by this tech journalist and writer, gentleman called Cory Doctorow. His name escapes me. Cory Doctorow. And we don't like to use profanities here, so I'm just going to insert the word poop instead of shit. But he wrote a book called The Impoopification of Tech Companies. And essentially the thesis goes like this, is that you have some type of tech company that starts up and it adds real value to the market. It creates a really great product that everybody wants and starts adopting and using. And then they introduce ads, and then they slowly over time start focusing more on advertisers than the user base. And then they grow into a very robust public company. They have stocks, and then they start focusing more on the investors than the end user. Eventually what happens is you kind of have this impoopification of the service, where it just deteriorates. It becomes less about servicing the customer and more about kind of helping some third party, increase their spreadsheets.
And there's one more on that, which is after they've satisfied shareholders, they start to take over the world and serve the devil. I mean, that's where Facebook is.
Yeah, and so you just throw me off of that. So and I think we've seen this. We've seen this with lots of tech platforms. They come and go. They some rise and wane in popularity. MySpace, we all kind of remember those days. Before that, there was things before that with bulletin boards, and forums, and whatever. Yeah. And this is why we stress the importance of owning your own email list, because if you own your own customer base, it doesn't matter what platform is popular at any given time. If you have a way of directly communicating with your customers, then you can sort of ride the waves of trends in terms of different technological advancements and things. So I actually see this introduction of ads, if they do this poorly, if this is poorly implemented, it possibly could backfire on them. And that's something that's worth considering and thinking about, because it isn't like there's a whole list of generative AI systems which don't have ads. So it's very easy for people right now to switch. Now, if they all incorporated ads around the same time, it's like, okay, well, we don't have too much options. But if these ads are poorly implemented, then it's very easily people say, oh, I'm going to end my subscription and go and find another system. And I suppose when it comes to advertising, there's two philosophies. I kind of think of this in terms of you have Meta's philosophy of advertising and then Google's philosophy of advertising. And Meta's philosophy is more so wanting to maximize the user experience, make sure that you see ads which are really conducive to your interests, to your likes, your thoughts, and at certain times when you're most likely to respond to them. Google, on the other hand, is more so about taking money from the advertiser, promising them that, oh, I can show your ads to these people, but then going through a back door and then going to the customer you're trying to reach and say, oh, if you pay me, I'm not going to show you this ad. So their philosophy more so on ad displays is really to annoy people, and so that people will block the ads through some type of paid service. Like the prime example of this would be Google Premium. I saw YouTube Premium, where they annoy you with ads which are poorly placed that interrupt the user experience that you then pay Google to stop seeing. So it's like they get paid from the advertiser to show the ad. They get paid by the end user to not see the ad. So this is a win-win for Google. And so depending on how GPT name ChatGPT. Why were these words escaping me today? Dehydrated. Depending on how ChatGPT implements ads, whether it's the Meta example, which I think is far better, or if it's more like the Google annoy you so that you have to upgrade, it could backfire and you could see a lot of people leaving the platform. So I don't necessarily think if they adopt ads that you're going to see this happen very quickly, but over time you could see the improvification of ChatGPT, and it just really becomes something that isn't as promising as it used to be.
Yeah, I think that there's a right way to do it and many wrong ways, but the way that I think works, like the reason that Facebook ads work really well, I think, is because, well, first of all, a lot of people use Facebook on the regular. We've become used to using it. It's a place we go dominantly. That's become a place that we go for group conversation around topics we like. So if you like board games, you might be involved in groups that discuss board games or whatever, right? With like-minded people, and you kind of get to like scratch an itch. A lot of Facebook is showing me a lot of Magic the Gathering stuff. So like Magic the Gathering groups where somebody's like, I just opened an old pack of Urza's Saga, which is from like 1998, and that's the year that I started playing Magic. I'm like, oh, what's in it? Is a Gaia's Cradle in there, and which is like a $20,000 card that I had like 5 of, and my cousin stole them all and sold them for like $50 of weed. And still mad at Benny to this day for doing that. But Facebook keeps people, and they enjoy using it. They argue about politics. They argue about, Greenland and all sorts of other things like that. But then Facebook sends people ads based on their interests. I think that is currently the smartest way to send people ads, because even though Facebook marks it as sponsored, sometimes I get 2 ads in a row, but even though Facebook marks it as sponsored, they're usually things that I actually am genuinely interested in, which I think Facebook does a really good job with that. That's the number one thing that Facebook does well, and that's why Facebook has lots and lots of money to continue to try to take over the world and serve the devil, because the ads are bangerang. So the ads are shown based on interest. On Google, they are based on search intent. They're like, well, search driven or intent driven, where I'm looking for, I don't know, let's say a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu gym near me. It's going to show the best organic results, but then it's also going to show the best, or the paid results. It's going to separate those. And Google for a very long time has worked hard to get people to click on those ads. The way that Google is laid out, normally you have like your top 10 results on the first page of Google, and you have sometimes, if it's local, like a local search, which is indicated by a phrase like near me, or even me searching in my town for grocery stores or whatever. Facebook knows I don't, or I mean, I'm sorry, Google knows I don't want a grocery store, across the country. Even if it's the best one, right? It's not relevant to what I'm actually intending. So Google has highly refined algorithms to figure out where I am, what I'm searching, what I really mean by that, etc. And then it will give me options that are the best organic results in the Google Maps. The map pack, is they call it, like your first three options in the map pack, with a local map there, and then the top 10 results below that. And oftentimes above the map pack, the very first thing you see are three ads, sometimes only one or two, and then below the top 10, you'll see three more ads. And that is where they get people to that's where people pay to get inserted with text ads. It used to be that under 10% of people would click there. And with changes that Google has made over the last 10 years, they've increased that number to almost 20% of all searches click on ads. Google does other things to try to get you to click. Like there are sponsored map listings. If you're looking for like a plumber in your city, it used to show Google guaranteed, like these two are Google guaranteed. Now it says Google verified. That is just to try to build trust. Even though it's an ad, it's like, this is a trustworthy person. And so they want to try to get you to click on something there. Organic ranking is still incredibly valuable, but they do all they can to try to to match your search intent. And a lot of the time it's just totally off. Like if I were to put deliverance on Google, and I'm looking for people that are advertising for, or that are looking for, like, oh, I really wish I had a Christian board game. What would they type? They're going to look for Christian board games. Then you would often find tons of results coming up for board games that don't, that exclude that first word. And that's very common on Google. So it's like, Mansions of Madness or Cthulhu Death May Die. It's like, it's something that my mom would not like when I was a kid, but that kind of stuff will show up if they pay the most money. And so those ads are really not, that's not what I was interested in, but that's what I'm being shown. So that can be hit or miss. YouTube is a little different. I think YouTube ads can be very effective, but I'm going to just skip right into ChatGPT ads, which, if they do these right, I think the way that they would do them correctly. So when you talk to ChatGPT, it's really weird to say that. Like I search in Google, but I talk to ChatGPT, which is really creepy. So when you talk, we'll just call it the Antichrist. Okay. So instead of talking to ChatGPT, it's the Antichrist. So when I'm talking with the Antichrist,
be the beast?
Yeah, the beast. It's you're having a conversation, you're asking questions about, by the way, all this is like in jest, we know the Antichrist is a person that leverages ChatGPT to get us all into subservient,
to worship him.
And yeah, so ChatGPT is not evil in and of itself. It's going to be made evil later. So anyway,
well, even the name Palantir, and we kind of, from Lord of the Rings. Yeah. It's like we named our company after this occultic sorcerer's device which spied on people. Oh, great.
Yeah, it's like Sauron's main. We basically named Palantir is named after Sauron's phone. It's like, what is Sauron's smartphone? It's like it's okay. But anyway, so the ChatGPT, when you're having a conversation, the ads, if they did them right, would appear inside the conversation, inside the responses. Like, here are a couple of options that you might appreciate, but instead of saying it that way, it would just be like, another little section in what ChatGPT is sharing with you, or maybe another thing that's like indicated somehow. And from what I understand, ChatGPT is going to make sure that you understand what is paid for, like what is a paid placement and what is an organic, in ChatGPT, just it thinks it's the best result. But I think that if they do it right, it's going to be intent driven. And I think that's where ChatGPT has a real leg up on Google right now, is because very similar to Facebook. Facebook is interest driven. I think ChatGPT can also be interest driven, and it can insert ads in a conversational way. But I think that the reason that I personally take ChatGPT very seriously is because it is. I think that if they do it right, people will actually appreciate receiving the ad.
It could also lead you to a certain question path, because I know sometimes when you put in a prompt on Gemini, so at the end it says, "Would you now like me to do this?" Yeah. So it can it sort of suggest your next prompt. So if that's sponsored, would you like me to recommend the best board game for you? It's like it's gonna, like, you've asked a general question about board games, and then the next prompt is kind of directing you to an ad, essentially, so that you could see things like that happening.
Yeah. So I wonder, what the demographics of people using ChatGPT are.
Ask them.
I think I will.
Can you ask it? And can you also ask it what are the most common questions that it's asked? I wonder if you could disclose that. Probably can't.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But if I owned Microsoft and I was the head of Copilot, I would make Clippy pop up and give you ads. Who wouldn't read an ad from Clippy?
I'd do it once and then I'd be pissed off. Hey, crowdfunding nerds, it's Andrew Lowen, and I wanted to introduce you guys to the Crowdfunding Nerds Academy. If you don't know, we have a do-it-yourself course system that will teach you how to build, excite, and prepare a crowd to fund you on your launch day, and that is our goal. I have used these systems to help raise over $30 million for tabletop campaigns, over 200 tabletop crowdfunding campaigns since 2019. I've generated over $100 million through e-commerce sales using these processes. These courses teach you how to replicate our results. They're made for the small creator. Over 150 of those people were first-time creators. These courses contain hundreds of hours of podcast discussions and tons of details that are almost impossible to find on the internet. And they have been distilled into concentrated courses that you can absorb quickly. They are designed to generate results. We hold nothing back. Visit crowdfundingnerds.com/academy to learn more, or just Google search Crowdfunding Nerds Academy. Back to the show. So ChatGPT said overall usage in the US, 34% of US adults say they've used ChatGPT as of June 2025, which is a Pew Research Center poll, which is probably old. The usage is much higher among young adults. 58% of young adults under 30 use ChatGPT in that study. So ChatGPT skews young, and right now it's obviously strongest in the under 30 category, which, by the way, is interesting in and of itself because Facebook skews to the demographics of like 30 plus. Mm-hmm. And so, typically it's like 30-year-old and above have more money than, under 30. But I still think that there's a significant market for people that are in their 20s for things like, board games and other, interest-based things like that. I will say that while I think Facebook is incredible for building an email list, I'm not sure how ChatGPT, because you can straight up target people and say, hey, we're going to Kickstarter with this product, and you're interested in board games and post-apocalyptic thrillers, so we figured you'd like this zombie game or whatever. I think that is really, it's going to be really tough to, let me back up and say that Facebook, it's really easy to build an email list that way. But I'm not sure if you can build an email list effectively on ChatGPT. It remains to be seen. I am very confident that you're going to be able to sell tons and tons of products in ChatGPT. And I wouldn't be surprised if ChatGPT even had a store where they could offer products directly. Like, you want to just one-click purchase this, like Amazon, that I wouldn't be surprised if they went into a model like that. I think it's a very powerful direction that they could go, where they could have all of the data, they could pay people that use it, and you could have a significant. I mean, eventually I could see them competing with Amazon for that reason, because if you're looking for something right now, everybody goes to Amazon, but if you're looking for if you're talking to ChatGPT and you're looking for the right product for you. For me, like yesterday, my wife is pregnant. We were talking about, a particular supplement, and we weren't sure. We know what type of, the type of supplement we want, but we don't know what's the best. And there's a lot that we were looking at. So right now we just search Amazon. But if ChatGPT had an actual, recommendations for supplements and why one over the other, I would actually rather use ChatGPT than Amazon to make my search. And they're both serve the devil. So it's like, which one, I guess ChatGPT isn't quite there yet, right? Amazon is, but ChatGPT is like honest. And
where's it pulling its data source from? Because I know Gemini, from what I've seen using, because we have Gemini part of our work Google Workspace, and sometimes I would use it just to ask different questions and things, or maybe even process some data to kind of speed things up. But I've noticed that a lot of its sources are from Reddit and Wikipedia. So I imagine a lot of them are pulling stuff from Reddit and Wikipedia.
Reddit is actually the number one source of, which I think it's like less than 1%, but it's still the number one source. The most cited source on ChatGPT is Reddit, the website Reddit.
So in terms of like trying to future-proof yourself or like be optimized for these types of searches, it'd probably be a good idea for publishers to think about their presence on Reddit and Wikipedia. I would imagine that's going to be I think that if Google or if these things can start to like scan videos, it could be the death of YouTube, because before you even watch a video, you could have an AI summarize the tips. This is clickbait, or here's the the top points. I don't even have to watch the video. I just read the 3 bullet points of what the video is about. So I imagine things like this, if it starts to be able to kind of process video and transcribe it and understand what the video is about, then it could be the end to a lot of YouTube careers, I imagine.
Yeah. There's this, I guess we're kind of getting into the ethics of ChatGPT, which we've discussed AI ethics, in past podcasts, but to just mention it here, there are certain, so training data for ChatGPT generally boils down to like publicly available web content. So you mentioned the 2 big ones, ChatGPT, Reddit, and Wikipedia. I'm sure that OpenAI has permission to use certain additional data. I mean, who knows? I mean, maybe the government is working with ChatGPT and they have data which means that they would be able to access data sources from anything else the government would have access to potentially, which includes things like Facebook and anything that they call it the canary, right? The yellow canary. There's in every major company, they have their terms of service, and the only way that you know that a company has not been giving data to the government is if they say so in their terms of service. And they liken it to a canary that coal miners would take down with them into the coal mines back in like the 1900s and 1800s. And if a canary suddenly died in its cage or passed out in its cage, the coal miners knew that there were harmful gases that they were breathing in that affected canaries much more quickly. So the coal miners would know to get out of there, because if they went into a big pocket of gas, they could all pass out and pass away, right? So the canary was the thing that they would use to tell them if it was safe or not. And they would get out of Dodge as soon as the canary died, right? And so when the canary dies on a website, it's just simply that one line in the terms of service disappears. And that means that the government is which the government, I believe, evidently has the right to do. They have the right to get data from you. And I think they pay you for it or something, but you're not able to say no. And the government, I would imagine the government's like, here's lots of money, and then also here's a bullet. Which one would you rather have? And so.
Well, you don't even need the government covertly doing it, because this is one of the problems with the kind of mass surveillance and data storage is eventually it will leak, or there will be some type of leakage. a hack or something will happen. So there's a great website called Have I Been Pwned? And you type in your email and it can kind of list, if you want to be horrified, it kind of lists data breaches. And if your email has been part of a data breach, or is it on the dark web and has information being leaked about you? And it likely has, because I don't think there's any kind of watertight, security measures to stop data from flowing here and there. So
I think the dark web is another word for the dark web is 4chan. True or not true?
And I suppose not true. The dark web is just usually
there's nothing really darker than 4chan on the web, though.
It's usually unlisted websites off of Google or sort of private websites. It's usually connected through via Onion routing or Tor, and usually they're connected through a Tor address. So that's sort of how this works.
That's sketchy. So
I've been told.
So now one other way I'll mention that ChatGPT has to get trained is by human content crafted by human trainers, and they give example conversations and other things like that. So anyway, it's ChatGPT oftentimes is not. I would imagine it gets updated all the time, but it's usually not searching the internet at the time it searches. It already has the data in its banks, and it just uses lots of GPUs. Like, that's the reason NVIDIA is such a big company, is because making like video, like 3D graphics cards for computer to play like video games, is also the same type of processing needed to for AI. And so you have to think on multiple threads and other things like that. So that's actually the single reason they become such a massive company. I think they're worth like 35% of the stock market is the value of NVIDIA right now. It's completely nuts. So anyway, I think that kind of going back into the ads, maybe we can discuss what we think is going to happen when it goes live and what kind of ads system they're going to use. And what do you think?
Well, they've made an announcement, haven't they? Have they given much details? I know that you had something that, could you share some more details on what they've officially announced?
I posted about this in the Crowdfunding Nerds community on Facebook, and everybody hates AI post, AI dribble when you post it. It's just like an immediate, I don't like this, but what I tried to do is I tried to actually structure, here are my thoughts in italics, and then the rest is ChatGPT thoughts. And so I shared a lot about what my perspective is on this information. If you want to just go see it, there's a post that talks about what it is, like what are they, when are they going live, and other things like that. And there's this like a test rollout is going to be within weeks. But as far as like the actual like platform and the form that they take, I expect they will take the position of like being a recommended thing or being something ChatGPT talks about. Maybe there will be like a little tiny mark to indicate that it's sponsored, but ideally, for probably for the user and for ChatGPT, it wouldn't even be marked. I mean, I think that's there's no requirement they have that it would be marked, but I think that just people like there might be backlash of like, oh, this isn't real content or something. So if they didn't mark it somehow, which then could kind of cause people to abandon the platform or cease trusting in the platform, which is a big problem. But I would say it would be probably a lot like Facebook, where you would have your product, you would have maybe a landing page or something where ChatGPT could learn information about the product, all the links that it could go to learn, which you would probably insert to make sure that ChatGPT knew everything possible about the product. And then it would probably act as like, if you want to learn more about this product, then I can do that, or blah, blah, blah. Right. And and then when you ask, like if somebody were to ask about Deliverance as a game or whatever, ChatGPT would probably have the rule book. It would have the the website, the Amazon page, all the reviews out there from the game, and the Board Game Geek listing and other things like that. So I think that you as the advertiser will probably be one of those human trainers in a way, and license the data, so you would probably need to prove that you have the ownership of the whatever the product, or that you have the right to sell the product, and that you would have to maybe opt into becoming like a what they call the human trainer of ChatGPT, where it would actually gain knowledge based off of websites that you link and other things about your product in particular. Um, and so that it would be able to talk in an educated manner about the thing that you made, and it would prompt people. Like, I think what it'll do is it'll prompt the right people searching the right things, which is like a discussion in and of itself, like how does it know, or how would you be able to train it that way. But I think that's kind of what will happen, and that's for product based businesses. And then there are service based, I would imagine, would be like if somebody was looking for like what's the best way to fix a leaky faucet, and then ChatGPT is like, well, one of the best ways is a plumber. If you want, I can give you a list of local plumbers in your area that blah blah blah, or here are other ways that you might want to look at to fix the leaky faucet. And then if they said, yeah, I would like a list of plumbers, then it would definitely list you as like the one of the first ones if you were sponsored, right? And then the data tracking, that's a big unknown, because like Google, in my opinion, has a really junky analytics system ever since they moved to Google Analytics 4. I hate it. I think that it sucks. It's very robust, but it's really hard to use and really hard to insert and really hard to train. Like normal people really don't have much of a hope of saying like, yes, this is a conversion action, unless like Shopify does a really good job of showing Google, yeah, this is a purchase conversion, but it's still really difficult. I think that ChatGPT, if the actual conversion was easily able to be tracked, that would be a big win as well. Like, oh, they went to my website, or they called my phone number, or they whatever, right? So I'd say that's a kind of the process that it would, like how it would work. And then how you train someone to search, I think would be based on intent, which is, this is, I think, where you need to know your audience. Because if you're, I bet it'll be like, here are their interests, the general interest. Here are the, typically like the target market are, you could say like men between the ages of 30 to 50 that have 2 kids that are named Dave. But that's so specific. What I would imagine the better way to do this for them would be like, what interests do they have? Do they like golf? Do they like, whatever, going to church on Sunday, or, I don't know. So those would be the interests they have. And then what phrases would they search for? What types of things would explain their search intent? Things like, if I was looking, for a plumber, it'd be, what are ways to fix a leaky faucet, and etc. And I would imagine over time, ChatGPT would be able to suggest things. It's like, oh, you're a plumber in this area. Here are some ideas that you might want to consider for developing your own ad. And I think you'll actually be able to talk to the AI while generating your ad, like while generating your search intent and keywords and whatever, which is really cool and also really scary. And I would imagine that people, this is the big thing, that like regular users would give it a try and then turn it off with, after they spend $100 to $200, because they don't know if it's working or not, and it's very costly and that kind of thing. So I think that agencies like ours that are going to be able to comb and work through lots of data are going to be the main companies, that like small agencies are going to be the main companies that help small businesses do this. And I also yeah, so I guess I'll just pause there and ask for your thoughts. What do you think about what I said?
Well, I think every social media platform thinks their ads are amazing. So, we often get people cold calling us from, as an agency, from Twitter or from
Yep. TikTok
Pinterest, or
and
TikTok, and they all promise the sky, and when you actually create a campaign, it
Yelp
falls
too.
flat.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, I think the proof is in the pudding ultimately. So, I think it's always worth testing. We're always looking at new social media platforms, new ways of advertising, trying to keep an eye on trends. It's just kind of in the space that we're in. So always keeping an eye on these things. But I think it's probably too early to say where it can go. I think it's certainly interesting. Could be another vector to reach people with board games and crowdfunding projects, but that has to be demonstrated still. So I any kind of promises of success, I would kind of hold very lightly from any of these platforms.
Yeah. Hey, crowdfunding nerds, if you're looking for an awesome fulfillment partner for US shipping, you should really consider Bridge Distribution and Fulfillment. I personally use them. I've used them for multiple projects. They do such a great job. They also can fulfill Amazon orders and get you prepped for Amazon and their warehousing team. I have been so happy using Bridge Distribution. I'm really proud that they're sponsoring us. If you reach out, bridgedist.com, that's bridgedist.com, let them know we sent you. All right, now back to the show. Yeah, I just kind of have a little bit more of an expectation that this is going to work very well, because I'm actively seeing results come from ChatGPT for clients. Whereas, they're always asking me things like, should I start a TikTok? Should I start an Instagram? Should I do this or do that? And it's like, do your customers use TikTok? Do your customers use Instagram? Even if they use those things, do they use them to like inquire about plumbing services? Probably not, right? And usually TikTok is for entertainment and Instagram is for ideas and trying to, or maybe communities or following particular figures, or things like that. But yeah,
TikTok kind of reminds me of a slot machine. So it's like, should I advertise on the slot machine? Well, probably not. The people playing slots are probably distracted by the slot machine. They probably don't want to get off the slot machine and check out your plumbing business or your board game even. So I think some of these platforms are not very conducive to advertising. Reddit is another one.
Yeah.
The people on Reddit want to stay on Reddit. Reddit has developed a culture of disdaining links that take you off Reddit, and they're downvoted, and so they've created a culture where people don't click links, which is the whole purpose of an ad. So they've basically made advertising impossible on Reddit. So I don't see that as a great platform. I think that's the same problem with Twitter. Twitter is actually very similar to Reddit. If you think of Reddit or subreddits in terms of cult communities, these are cult communities. I can't step in and present anything unorthodox. I could be kicked out as a heretic. Well, Twitter is very similar, except instead of having cult communities, you have cult leaders, right? Where it's more personality focused. But I think likewise, a lot of people there are maybe just trying to stay up on certain trends and not really there to click links that take them off Twitter. So I think it's the same problems that Reddit has, and this is why we've never seen success with Twitter ads or X ads, whatever you want to call the platform today. So I do think there's certain platforms which don't really do well for ads. I think if you are going to Kickstarter, what we recommend is Meta, Board Game Geek, and YouTube. And YouTube would kind of be through influencers and people who have kind of an audience rather than through Google systems. You can use Google systems, but that's tends to be more for larger budgets and kind of awareness and brand reach.
Yep.
So those are kind of like your big three for crowdfunding.
And if you I ask this question every once in a while, but I like to think about it like this: if you had $5,000 to spend, period, and that was your entire budget, what on ads and everything, how would you divide that budget if you were going to crowdfunding?
Give it all to Andrew Lowen.
Yeah. How would I divide it then? Yeah, I guess I'd say initially Facebook is should be dominating. Like find one influencer on YouTube that is like what I call an A-level influencer or channel, like if you're doing a board game, then the Dice Tower or Man versus Meeple or Board Game Co. with Alex Radcliffe, or there are a number of different, like Rado runs through, or with like Shay with RTFM. These are, I think, decent companies that are well known. So the key is a company that has produced a lot of videos that have lots of views, that are well known in in general, so that it's not some obscure reviewer that nobody's ever heard of, and that person has the ability to share with their audience about your game. I think that's really important. One of those is all you need. A lot of people go crazy and spend a bunch of money on 10 different companies like that thinking all their video viewers are going to like watch the video and then jump on the Kickstarter and back it, which I don't think that's really what they do. But I think that it adds credibility to you, and it's really important for all the people that do go look at your Kickstarter page. They're going to look and like, oh, it looks like the Dice Tower gave a preview video of this. Clearly this company is not embarrassed of their product, right? And so you can send it to 10 reviewers, but only pay for one of them. Then beyond that, I mean, let's just say like over a period of 2 months, easily your first, $1,500 a month or $2,000 a month would go very, very well in Facebook ads, like to build an audience. And I honestly, I don't know that you would need anything else.
The rest you'd spend on our Crowdfunding Nerds Academy course just so that you can manage your own ads.
Yeah, that's true.
Something you want to pick up.
Honestly, I know it's a little bit of a plug, but like just at least you need to be educated because, when you think about it, if you have the same budget, let's just cut it simpler and say, if you've got $1,000 budget, and it obviously makes more sense if you have more money, but let's just say, you have $1,000 for ads. If you spend them in a way that would, let's just say you get one lead for $3 and, that's going to be what, roughly 333 leads, I guess. If you could just take a course, let's say if you spent like half of that money on it, well, I guess for us, it's like $3.99 is our Facebook ads course. We give discounts.
Or even just get us for consulting us. We could jump on an hour, 2-hour call as well.
Yeah. So just something like that. And you gain knowledge. You then are able to permanently enhance the amount that you get you reduce the amount required per conversion. So at a certain point, it makes a lot of sense to get educated, right, and trained. And our course does a really good job with that. Obviously, if you hire us as an agency, then we do a good job with that. But imagine if like $400 of that was taken away because you paid for our, whatever, the Facebook ads course. You have $600 left. In order to gain an equivalent value with that 600 that you did with 1,000, all you need to do is decrease the amount that it costs to get somebody to convert from $3 to just under $2. And that is so possible with the course and just with additional knowledge. But the reality is that a lot of the time people won't get $3 a lead on their own. They get like $5 and $10 a lead, and it's horrible because they don't know what they're doing.
Or it's like 20 cents a lead, and it's like you've targeted the wrong people, and or you're using the Metaform ads which never work, and so those things can happen too.
In the end, what really matters isn't the cost per lead that you get; it's the cost per conversion for backers to your campaign. And before your campaign goes live, you don't have that data. You need to have a solid process for bringing on a lead, warming them up, and getting them excited. And if the lead was somebody that doesn't even know what your product is, and they filled out the form, which is very common, they see an ad, they're like, oh, that looks like a cool thing. And they're like, oh, okay, it's a game. And they just autofill their email and then go on with their day. They didn't read anything about your game. And when it comes time a month later for a Kickstarter to launch, they're like, what is this company sending me an email? I've never heard of this in my life. And they unsubscribe and they don't, look at your Kickstarter. We see that all the time. So I know we were talking about AI, but it just feels like the most important thing, even with AI, is like the person that is using it as a tool, because you are the master craftsman of your projects. And AI is just a tool that you can use, but it's not going to do the heavy lifting for you. Meta has lots of AI that you can enable, and you will lose tons of money if you do that, because the tools are just not very good for, on their own for getting you
internally
results.
Internally, in the crowdfunding nerds, we often share images that Meta will spit out because when you upload assets, it will say it'll automatically create AI generated ads. It's like, hey, would you like this? And sometimes they're hilarious. So we have an internal channel where we share some of these funny hiccups that Meta will spit out, saying, hey, would you like this ad?
Yeah. They're embarrassing sometimes.
So I think maybe the overall thing to keep in mind is that different technologies, they come and go. It's still to be seen whether ChatGPT will be a heavy pusher. But above all, no matter what platform becomes popular, what people use, and how you can kind of reach your customers, the important thing is owning your audience, owning your own email list, and guarding that. So no matter what platform comes up, you have a way to communicate with your email list. And even email has weaknesses because so many people use Gmail or Yahoo, these kind of larger, and a lot of other email providers just copy their block list. So if you get into their bad books, you've essentially been shut down from email. So it's also another thing that you got to keep in mind. That email, even though it's the best option, it's still not a perfect option. And I was actually recently brought onto this new type of protocol, which I think is very interesting. I don't know if it's going to grow. I'd like to see it grow because I think it kind of captures the same essence as your email list. But it's a protocol called Noster, and it stands for Notes and Other Stuff Transmitted by Relays. And it's open source, which means anyone can avail it and use of it. And it works a lot like how a lot of cryptocurrencies work, in that the technology, the architecture is quite similar, in that you have a private key and a public key. And the private key is really your identity and your way of accessing the social network. So it is a social network site. And what's interesting about the system is that because it's open source and anyone can develop apps around this, that once you plug in your private key and you get followers, those followers are forever connected to your profile unless they unfollow you. So it means that you can really take your followers through something like Noster with you wherever you go, as long as you keep your private key. It's almost like your email address. As long as you keep that identifier, then you can, no matter what happens to a certain app. So you might be using an app that kind of mimics Facebook's interface, and you're using Noster to look like Facebook, but then they start showing ads through this system. I don't like that. You can just take your private key and put it on like a Twitter clone, which is one that's now mimicking Twitter, or one that's mimicking YouTube. So it's a very interesting protocol, very interesting way of addressing the internet. And this could be very powerful for business owners in the future, because it's very much like an email list at that point. When someone follows you, you then essentially have a way of contacting them that can't really be stopped by a third party, because it runs off these different nodes that anyone can host, that the social networks run on. So it's sort of taking a lot of these concepts from, all these cryptographic concepts from cryptocurrencies, and that it's decentralized and that anyone can access it. And once it's on the blockchain or once it's on these servers, it's there, and it can be accessed, and nothing can kind of stop it from relaying to you. So it's a very interesting concept, Noster. So that's something that people might want to check out. There is an app called Primal. So you go to primal.net, you can check it out, learn more about it there. But I do think it's worthwhile keeping an eye on what's coming up down the line, and what people are thinking of, what people are doing, because people might be sick of being on Facebook where you have to constantly pay them to reach your audience, or on YouTube where they change their terms of service, and suddenly you've been, you got copyright strikes or whatever, and you've lost all your subscribers. Well, something like this kind of prevents those things from happening. And I think a lot of people might be searching for alternatives if we continue to see the in-poopification of big tech, and it just becomes harder and harder, or more costly to reach your own customers.
It is pretty interesting. And you shared with me, it's like a 4-minute video about that I think we should include in the show notes. I think that would be just a good thing to be aware of, because who knows exactly where it's going. But I will echo what you said, is that platforms change, but just look at, and there are people even listening to this podcast that say the thing that drives me crazy is, well, I don't even use email. I don't even use it. I never subscribe to people's emails. It's like, dude, you and your customer are different people. You are an entrepreneur and a business owner, and you think in a certain way, and the general market thinks in a different way. And I think that you have to first realize that the general market uses email. There are however many 3 billion Facebook accounts or something, or 3 billion Facebook users, and there are something like 8 billion emails. I don't know. It's crazy. Like a lot of email accounts, people use those things. And even with ChatGPT, what did I have to use to sign up? An email address. So
Mm-hmm.
even with something like that, like in 2026, I have to have an email address to use ChatGPT. So the
But with the B systems, actualized will be your digital ID that will
be
follow
my
you everywhere.
DNA, a mark on
Yeah.
my right hand or
be,
forehead.
be a blood sample.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, so I think that until the DNA becomes the main source of tracking you, it really is the email is like the central thing right now, and I think that you need to keep that email list again. I've said it before. I'll say it again. Is the most valuable asset that you can build. The email list is the most valuable asset you can build for your company. So it's something that, like, when you go to Kickstarter, a lot of people will, I'll just digress a little bit, a lot of people will say, oh, I just need Kickstarter followers, and then they make a game, they go to Kickstarter or GameFound, and then they get their followers and, like, I don't need anything else, I just use followers. And then their product comes to retail, or like is available on their website, and the only way that they can sell it is either, of course, they get it into distribution, maybe, but dominantly they have to use ads, because nobody knows, nobody cares. Everybody that cared bought it already, and everybody that didn't buy it, you can only reach them by spamming them on Kickstarter or spamming them on GameFound. But if you say, like, I mean, there are a lot of people that will be interested in a product that are not interested in in backing your product through crowdfunding, where it's like, oh yeah, it's going to take 2 years to get this thing, or a year allegedly, and then it ends up being a year and a half because of delays or whatever. Well, there are people that are just like over that process, that are like, this looks really cool, I'd like to follow it, but they're not going to back your product on Kickstarter for whatever reason. Maybe for that month they were strapped for cash, and then the next time they think about it, they're like, oh well, I've already invested into this other product. It's nice to have the email of those people on your list for years and years, that you send once a month an email. I mean, I can't tell you how profitable that the first 2,000 or the first 1,000 emails that I earned has been for my company. I mean, the first 1,000 emails during our Kickstarter was 2,200 that I did the math for, earned us about $60,000 just in the Kickstarter. But then since then, we've been able to we ran another Kickstarter. We've sold through 5,000 units of our game. We are going to have a bunch more games with a new expansion and a bunch of new add-ons and that kind of thing. All of the people on our email list are going to be able to continue to, or they may be interested, and all of the ads and everything else that we do, that is going to add more people to the email list. It's going to generate more interest and all of that. And our email list is where we farm. So we don't want to beat up the people on the email list over and over again, buy my product, because then your email list goes dead and it runs dry. It's like a stream that if you take water from it, from the source, then the stream actually dries up. What you want to do is you want to farm it in a sustainable way, right? So you divert only as much water as your crops absolutely need. And, in order to farm them, you don't stop up the spring with by taking all the water, right? So anyway, that's, I guess I'll end my digression, my in-poopification of the email, and say, keep an eye out for ChatGPT's ads, because they're kind of a big deal, and I think that that you guys should know about them. Oh, one last thing I'll mention. I think that when ChatGPT launches ads, you're going to have smart money come in. What I mean by smart money are people that are investing, looking to make it work and giving it a go right away. We're going to do that absolutely right away with our clients, and we're going to be able to figure out what works. I'm going to do it for my own personal projects, and we'll see kind of how that goes. When everybody, oh, and by the way, the cost, I think, for that is going to be higher initially, and there are going to be more errors and other things like that. But over time, you're going to have the people that come in with like $1,000. They spend their 1,000 and they get whatever results they get, and they're done. And in, month one, that's going to happen. In month two, there's probably going to be less of those, like onesie twosie users, and you're going to have the ones that last, the ones that plan for like a longer term use of ChatGPT ads, I think are going to be most rewarded. And then what I call the dumb money, or I think that's a term that is just when everybody realizes, yes, this is a winner, that is when other people will begin to run ads, and then the competition will increase. And everybody knows today Facebook Meta is like the number one place. If you want to build an email list, you got to go to Facebook Meta. And when that becomes common knowledge, ads become more expensive, and there's just more competition. So just keep that in mind. I encourage everybody listening to this podcast to be an innovator or an early adopter of new technology. As soon as it works, and that becomes common knowledge, it's going to, you kind of like miss an opportunity. I think it's possible to earn leads on ChatGPT for half of Facebook Meta potentially, while it's early on in the process and they're rolling it out. So anyway, hopefully you guys found this podcast useful, and we'll see you on the next episode.
This episode is brought to you by Hero Time Manufacturing. That is Hero Time, the numeral 1.com. Hirsch Gleck has been a regular on our podcast. We highly recommend his services. He is a man of integrity. Hero Time, they can make anything. They've got competitive pricing, and they even do game prototypes. So make sure to check out Hero Time, numeral 1.com. A link is in the show notes. And if you use the code crowdfundingnerds101, you can get a 3% discount on your production through them. Let's get back into the episode.